A new administration in Washington is setting a new challenge for opponents in the Democratic Party. An important part of the response to that challenge will depend on the party's young activists. Our guest is one of those activists, a member of the Young Democrats of Massachusetts and its newly formed Black Caucus. We'd like to welcome Reynolds Graves. Thank you very much for being with us, Reynolds.
Thank you for having me, Chris.
First of all, talk about what got you involved in trying to really plunge into the party here.
Well, I do think that from an early age, I was very involved in politics, and I was very involved in door knocking, canvassing, and the like. Never really gravitated towards one party per se, and to this day, I mean, even though I am a card-carrying Democrat, I still am always willing to hear what the other side has to say. That's what I was taught. But I realized that a lot of the decision-making and the platforms and the path of the future of a lot of politics are from the internal organizations that support them, whether it be PACs or parties or what have you. And that's when I knew I wanted to have a kind of skin in the game.
Well, talk about your bipartisan background, because you've worked for Deval Patrick, the former governor. You also worked for the current governor.
I did do a stint on the Baker for Governor campaign, yes. Which was just, quite frankly, I thought that he was the better qualified candidate for the job, in my opinion. And I think so far, so good.
What has this taught you, working for people in both parties?
It's taught me, I see like most millennials, they see certain things. You say Republican, they think, oh, no, that's crazy. Or if you say Democrat and they're Republican, I want to stay away from that. But it really teaches you to have an open mind and to be optimistic and to understand that we are ultimately all in this together. We want to see Massachusetts and this country succeed no matter what the party is. And I think it's kind of taught me just to kind of, the buzz phrase, work both sides of the aisle, if you will, but really to look deeper into the issues, not just see an R or a D next to a candidate or next to a bill or next to a line item or an amendment or what have you, and look deeper into it and see what's behind it, and always attach it to the person that's behind it.
This is BNN News, and we're talking with Reynolds Graves from the Young Democrats in Massachusetts. One thing you're going to be concentrating on is the Black Caucus.
Sure.
This has just got started, so tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So a friend of mine, Sam Gibrew, who is a candidate for City Council in Cambridge, started the Massachusetts Young Democrats Black Caucus, and he and others have come together to form, there are many caucuses already within the Young Democrats. I believe Black Caucus is one that had not been started, but there is a women's caucus, an LGBT caucus, progressive caucus, I believe. So it was kind of, they came together and said, hey, we should do this. There seems to be a gap here, as much as there is an achievement gap among minorities with different sectors of the economy or the world, quite frankly. Politics is certainly not left out of that. So in order to get more young African Americans or people of color involved in politics, they formed the caucus. And it's not just, Chris, not just saying I'm running for office. It's from the very grassroots level. It's knocking on doors. It's being a part of your ward committee, volunteering on a campaign, holding signs. All of those, especially internships, like how I got started. Internships are really the best way to get started in government and politics. The more people of color we have, or the more people from diverse backgrounds we have in internships, the better those offices are, the better the candidate is potentially, the better that state senator or state rep or governor or what have you is being served by his or her team around him.
Talk about what you'd like to see in the future of the caucus, because right now I see this party almost being split between two different directions. One is saying they got to be more progressive, and really down to earth, connecting with the working class, connecting with people of color. And the other side says you got to be more bipartisan.
Wow, it's tough. I mean, it is really a mixture of both still. And not to deflect your question, but I do think that there is a need for bipartisanship. But at the same time, I think that, the recent national election really kind of woke up Democrats. And I think in a way really woke up Republicans too, because they went through a big fight. They had, 16 candidates, right? So the Republican Party is all over the place as well. There are moderates and conservatives as well in the Republican Party, and there are moderates and conservatives in the Democratic Party. I think it's really more so, and now you're seeing kind of all these issues coming together. What are the things that we can all get around? Is it student loan reform? Is it, housing issues? Is it health care? What are the issues that are going to be consistent that both parties can work on together? I think that's really what it's focused on.
You've probably read something about some of these public opinion surveys recently about the baggage that Democrats are carrying right now. There are a lot of people who feel a disconnect from them? You know, that I think it's along the lines that these are professional politicians. They're not like real people. Not
Limousine
like the rest
rebels,
of us.
right? Yeah.
Or gentrified Democrats, whatever you want to call them.
Sure. I mean, there's always, no matter how long or short you serve in politics, you always are, I feel like, running with the label of, you know, career politician or a robot, right? But I think there is a way that politics is done. It's a business, quite frankly, and there is a way that it's kind of used and the way it evolves. I understand how some can be alienated by all of these special interests and donors and all that, but those are on both sides. It's not just a Democrat issue, and it's also, you know, independents have that issue as well. It's really not about either party being more susceptible to it. It's really about how much of it is actually coming into our politics these days.
Well, what are the things that's coming into our politics, especially at the highest levels, are people who did not go through your career trajectory. They worked in the corporate world. Sure. They saw different countries, and now they're in the cabinet, or they're doing important things for Trump. Compare that kind of a trajectory with yours, because you saw a bit of the world too in Egypt.
I did. To keep it short, I mean, I've interned in the House and the Senate in D.C., came and then moved here to Boston, finished up UMass Boston. But while I was at UMass Boston studying political science, I interned in the Governor Patrick's administration, in the late Mayor Menino's press office, which is where I think I saw your name on some paper, and then bounced to the Bay State Banner, and did journalism and things like that. And then I interned at the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. And then the White House. So it's been a long road, I guess you could say already. But along those different paths, I've always met people who have randomly decided, or as they describe it, I've randomly decided to get involved in politics. I was frustrated about the potholes on my street, so I knocked doors for the guy that was running against the other person who was the incumbent because they said they're going to fix the potholes. And that's how they got involved. And I remember witnessing intern panels in the halls of Congress where someone was saying, yeah, I'm a former artist, thought there was no place in politics for me, but now I'm curating the art that you see on the wall here in the Capitol in DC. There are people that also do things like arts and culture, innovation, business, tech, all of that stuff throughout politics. That's why we have cabinets, that's why we have different things. I really think that's a wealth of experience. I don't look at it as a deterrent at all, or a con. I look at it more as a pro. The more well-rounded someone can be, I think it's even better serving.
Take me back even before the notches in the bio. What put you in this direction when you were younger? I'm often asked that, and whenever I try to avoid what is kind of the obvious answer, it always kind of comes up. I mean, my family's been involved in politics for quite some time. My great uncle was a longtime state senator, one-term lieutenant governor, and then the first African-American governor of the country in Virginia. So that certainly had a big influence on my life. Not only do we share the same middle name because of that, but also, he's really taught me a lot about, hey, politics and government is for the people, it's serving the people. It's not so anyone can get rich, or it's not to have the power to be in all the glamour. A lot of it is non-glamorous, but a lot of it is knowing that you're in a position to be able to help and to aid and to care. My father also served as a federal judge in the bankruptcy court, so I do see kind of the business side of politics as well, and always grew up wondering what small businesses struggling or going out of business on Main Street and why they might be going through that, or even big businesses like Walmart or other corporations might be having troubles, and why and how. And my Uncle Isaac as well, the kind of running gag is that he, or the joke among the family, but really more of an accolade, is that he came to Boston and stayed here for 20 years and worked for everybody. From Paul Tsongas to Kevin White to Mike Dukakis to folks I've never even met, but I just remember hearing about it at the Thanksgiving dinner table. But now I'm here in Boston, and I'm hearing who all of them are, and I'm seeing some of them. And he was more behind the scenes. And I'm certainly now at this point in my life more attracted to that, as you can see. Great. Well, thank you very much for being with us. Reynolds, finally, if people want to get involved in the party, they've got a website, at least the Young Democrats?
Yes, Young Democrats is ydma.org.
Great. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Reynolds Graves. In a moment, Tangled Up in Regulation, we'll talk with the author of a book called Bottleneckers.